That's belief, man. Our time.
Our time.
All right, you guys are bad motherfuckers. All right, Saturday, 3 words came up: belief, brotherhood, and BU. For damn sure, we lived all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So let's take our show on the road
Yes,
again.
sir.
Yeah. Now you want to say something?
Yep.
All right.
Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry, served by Applebee's.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Happy Hour. That's right, post-wild card weekend. Connor Rogers, a very happy Matthew Berry and Jay Croucher.
I got goosebumps. Feel it. I got goosebumps. Feel it. That's
pretty
right.
good.
Pretty
good locker room.
Huh?
Glad I'm on this side of the table.
Go ahead.
A little touch?
Yeah,
a little touch
ahead,
for
yeah,
Jay?
Go ahead. That's right. Faith and fun.
The only thing else,
never in doubt.
I just can't believe the green undershirt's not bad.
You know what?
That's bad karma that you're building up.
Fair enough.
Lions
It's actually in the wash. I forgot it. But I will, you know what I'm going to do? Here's what I'm going to do. I will wear it on, we're doing a show Thursday. That's a preview show. So I will wear it on Thursday with a Commanders jersey as we preview our game against the Detroit Lions, because we're moving on, baby. We're moving on. Hail the Commanders, hail victory. Never in doubt, Jay Croucher. Never in doubt.
2 things. 1, I'm stunned you washed your clothes. That's a massive revelation.
my wife.
Secondly,
Come on, let's be clear.
did you think Jayden was going to lead him down the field and win it?
I
You
did.
didn't seem that confident on the text chain, or at least you were just like,
Well,
couching
I mean,
it
you
down.
know what? I'm so nervous. Here's what I actually thought. I thought Jayden would give them a shot, because Jayden is amazing. But the line has been bad. They haven't been able to run the ball. Their defense has played so well, and I was worried that something non-Jayden would happen, like they would miss a field goal, or somebody would fumble, or there'd be a bad penalty, or something. Like I have never ever doubted Jayden Daniels. But sometimes the other guys on the team, you're just like,
Were you worried about Zane Gonzalez after he adjusted his hair for the 90th time?
Very limited hair. Very limited hair.
1,000%. I'm like, what is he doing? And I was sitting next to producer Damien. We were watching the game together, and I'm like,
I've never seen that.
Yeah, and I was just like, wait, are they showing this again? Is this a loop? No, it was just like it was like some sort of OCD.
Like panic setting in.
And I was just like, oh God, is my season really coming down to Zane Gonzalez?
But he nailed the kick. Nailed it.
But no, listen. Here's what happened, right? So it goes off the goalpost. It doinks. Here's me reacting. Here you go. Here's me watching it. This is me.
Let's go! Never in doubt! Hail the Commanders! Hail victory! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Yes! You got doinked. I got doinked, but it went in. Oh, this game took years off my life. But we're going to Detroit. Never in doubt. Oh, Jayden Daniels is a magic man.
The right post drinks for free.
Of
after
course,
that.
1,000%.
Doing a lot of work.
Dude. I saw the doink, so you see me there. I see the doink. I'm like, oh God! And then it takes a second to realize that it went into the net.
It's on the angle at all.
Right. It wasn't a great angle, so I didn't know if it had bounced forward or bounced back. And then I noticed that right post, that beautiful right post, soft, gentle, kind of pushed it on into.
Yeah, it's the hands of God.
The hands of God, 1,000%. So the right post drinks for free. Zane Gonzalez drinks for free. Jayden Daniels drinks for free for the rest of his life. Everyone does. Just an unbelievable victory. By the way, I was the only one, me and Maria Taylor, the only ones on Football Night in America that picked the Commanders to win. That was my best bet last night, was Commanders money line at plus money. I believed. Let's go. What a big win, Jay Croucher.
It was a great win. Also, I like all the other things that are on the screen in the screening room. We've got some Australian Open tennis in the bottom right corner. Look like Kevin Love getting interviewed.
Covering all bases.
But no, super.
All the sports that are coming in NBC Sports are in there, by the way. So that's where we watch football. That's where the entire Football Night in America crew watches the games, everything. The other voice you heard in that video was producer Damien, who sits next to me on one side during all the games on Sundays. And I didn't want to move.
Yeah. There's the quote that like a baseball game is a nervous breakdown divided into 9 innings. That was that football game was a nervous breakdown divided into 4 quarters, because it was like every single play was high leverage. This is like 54th downs, and Quinn's going for it every single time.
It took years off my life. All those 3rd down conversions, all the 4th down conversions. The Bucs are such a good defense. The Commanders couldn't run the ball. They became basically a one-dimensional offense. And I'm Connor, I'm curious what you think, because I also was just like, Marshawn. I don't know if Marshawn Lattimore is cooked or just like
it's either one of two things,
or he's just too rusty.
He's either hurt and he barely played football this year,
right?
And hamstrings were still an issue, or two, because they've been an issue so long, he's on the decline where he can't move nearly as close to how he once did. It
didn't look like he had a bad game. It looked like he physically just could not keep up across the field with Mike Evans, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that was the best man-to-man corner in football for how long?
Right, and it's had success against. I mean, I forget. That was one of your best bets was Evans under, and in fact, at Fantasy Life, my guy Ian Hartitz put it out there, and I think he had been under that number against Lattimore the last 9 times they faced it. It was a long stretch of games where he'd never gotten 75 yards against Lattimore, and so I think some of it was maybe he's just he's just injured or he's hit that wall. I will also say Tampa Bay did a really nice job. Liam Cohen did a great job in terms of doing bunch formations and just springing him open, and it just felt like a lot of times Lattimore just took the wrong angle. You know what I mean? Or just was 2 steps behind. They'd set up in a wrong formation, and so by the time Lattimore was able to get sort of through traffic, the ball was already there to Evans. But what a great win. Never in doubt.
Yep.
Never in doubt.
Connor, question for you. So not thinking about long-term future, but just purely for next week playing a football game, quarterbacks in the NFL, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, I think those are your top 4 in some order. Is Jayden Daniels 5th?
Burrow's not playing next week.
I know, I just mean
in
general, if you could have a quarterback for next week.
I would say after what we've seen this year, it's hard to argue against that. It really is.
You're a top 5 quarterback now.
That'd be amazing. I mean, Goff is playing at a super high level too,
Daniels is better than Goff.
Yeah, I mean,
individually, right? If you drop Jayden Daniels into the Lions' offense, you'd be like, "Oh man," that's how I look at it.
Probably gonna write off Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert's still very much in that mix. He had a bad game.
Yeah,
and we'll get
but
to
I wouldn't take him over Jayden Daniels, confidently.
I think Jayden Daniels.
I wouldn't take Jalen Hurts over him.
No, I don't. That's not even close.
Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC.
Wow,
you
might be right.
He is.
When you really break it down, I mean. We hoped Jordan Love was going to take that step this year, and we saw how that kind of played out.
He's doing this with Dyami Brown and Zach Ertz.
Right.
No,
What's he going to look like when he's got T. Higgins
behind
or
a
something?
bad offensive line. I mean, the Bucs were blowing that line up all game. Yeah. That's the other thing. It's they would show Vita Vea as being double teamed, and he's still blowing through it.
Yeah, him and Greg Gaines. Just
I mean, so exactly. Put Jayden Daniels behind the Lions' offensive line. And watch out. So faith in 5, unbelievable game. First playoff win by the Commanders, I believe, in 18 years. Randomly against the Buccaneers, that was as well. I think he's one of the only 4 rookie quarterbacks in NFL history to win a road playoff game.
Was that Jason Campbell back then? Who was the?
No,
Todd
it was
Collins.
No, it was Brad John. No, it was Brunel.
Brunel.
It was Brunel.
Right.
It was Brunel.
It was
Brunel. Mark Brunel.
It's a long time between drinks.
With Gibbs. Yeah, former Jaguar great.
That's right.
Mark Brunel. Yeah, it was Mark Brunel.
Second greatest Jag ever after David Garrard.
I think it's the only, it's like Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson, and I forget the third guy. That's Sanchez. Mark Sanchez.
Yeah.
Mark Sanchez. And he won
Playoff
multiple
legend.
ones. Yes. But those are the only 3 rookie quarterbacks to win road playoff games. And now JD5, man. Let's go.
And we got to hear from not only Jayden Daniels after the game on how big that first playoff win was, but of course Dan Quinn, who's just had a tremendous debut season.
He should be coach of the year. He's not going to win, but he should be.
Let's hear from Dan Quinn.
They have a lot of belief in one another. Jayden certainly is a big factor in that. I think if he had his heart rate monitor on in mind, they would not be the same in the game. And his stays pretty consistently good. And sometimes I'm like the duck. If you just saw the feet going under the water, it's good. But he really is into that space, exceptional.
I mean, that's just the brotherhood and that DQ. I mean, that DQ set, the brotherhood, the togetherness that we have within the locker room. Obviously, the people that have been around us, been in the locker room, we can see how close we are off the field. And we're always hanging around each other. Everybody gets along with each other. So I think those moments, when times get tough, we fall back on those type of moments.
So the final line for Jayden Daniels
here we go.
In this win, 24-35.
I forgot about Brock Purdy.
Yeah, there's a couple on here. Obviously, well, these are just rookie quarterbacks.
He didn't win on the road, though, Purdy.
A playoff game,
Purdy didn't win on the road. That was the qualifiers. So, you see Sanchez. Oh, I forgot about Flacco. He at Miami in
I didn't
08.
have to do much in that game. From memory, and I'm just going
neither-
back a long time, I think Ed Reed had like 3
By the way,
picks in
neither
that
did
game.
Mark Sanchez in most of his playoff games, so let's call it how it is.
Yeah. And
Russell Wilson.
So,
as you mentioned.
Russell Wilson, that was against RG3, so one of them was going to win there.
Yeah. So not a lot of guys have done this since 2000.
Forgot about Flacco as well, but
different.
It's a
Flacco
short
was
list.
very much carried by that defense back then. Now, to be fair, he won a Super Bowl in his own arm later on, and then won Comeback Player of the Year sometime after that. But to your point about Dan Quinn, who I don't think he's going to win Coach of the Year. I certainly think he has a sound case. Since Week 4, the Commanders have the 10th best defense in football. Like, they do not have the horses to have the 10th best defense in football. They showed up last night. They made the plays that they had to. It's not a dominant defense, but it's good enough to give Jayden Daniels a chance to win these games. And look, they're 8.5-point dogs against Detroit, but I think they got the better quarterback, and they'll have a chance in that game.
Yeah, I mean, and given how beat up the Lions' defense is, they're going to need like a pick or a pick six or like a fumble return. They're going to need something goofy, but one game, anything can happen. And for me as a Commanders fan, like, this team won 4 games last year. Won 4 games. We are playing with house money. Like, if you told me before the season, hey, you're going to win 12 games in the regular season, you're going to go to the playoffs, you're going to win a road playoff game, and then you might lose to the number 1 seed on the road in the divisional round, I would have signed up for that right then and there. I'm not waving the white flag at Detroit, but I'm just saying if that's how the season ends, I'm still good. We've got a quarterback. We've got a quarterback for the next 15 years. Faith in 5, unbelievable. It is Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's a big Commanders fan as well, and him and I, we've played in fantasy leagues. He's a big fantasy football player, so I know him. And we were texting a little bit through the game, and he put this out on social media as well, where he's just like, it's been so long since I've been nervous for a playoff game. And I'm like, I know, just having that feeling of like just feeling alive. Like, we got a shot, you know what I mean? And like,
you didn't feel alive when Taylor Heineke played Tampa Bay a few years ago?
Honestly, that was a great game.
It was fun.
Heineke was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Heineke was fun. But that team didn't even deserve to be in the playoffs. Like, it was like, they're 7-9. It was a typical Ron Rivera, like, just underachieved less than everyone else underachieved. Don't get me started. But Heineke was great. Heineke gave Tom Brady the toughest.
Really good in that game.
For that year's playoffs, like, I would argue Heineke was the quarterback that matched Brady the best. If you look at all the games.
More than Mahomes and Rodgers that year.
No, exactly. But they didn't really, I mean, like, Tampa Bay.
He was really good, though.
Yeah, he was great. So we'll always have that run to the end zone for Taylor Heineke. But yeah, anyway, my argument for Dan Quinn Coach of the Year is that I know Kevin O'Connell will win because also people thought, once Kirk left. But that was a playoff team caliber roster. It just needed a quarterback. And so tons of credit for resurrecting Sam Darnold. But, like, if you look at the Commanders, who won 4 games last year, had a ton of turnover in terms of the roster, it's still like a bottom half of the league roster, top to bottom, talent-wise, I would argue. I mean, Dyami Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus and Zach Ertz was out of football. And it's like a middle-of-the-pack defensive line. And, like, they have truly become a team. They are incredibly close, and they've won some amazing games. And
they're well coached, not even from Quinn, but I thought Cliff called an awesome game last night.
Yep.
Like, there was a lot of quick designs. Let's not have Jayden sit in the pocket and get killed. Let's balance it. And the Bucs were having 2 linebackers spy Jayden Daniels. So when you take away his legs, that means the play caller has to adjust, and I thought he did a great job adjusting. Yeah.
Well, Coach of the Year is subjective. I don't think there's like a definitively right answer, but I think the reason O'Connell will win is like it's just very easy to quantify the improvement in Sam Darnold, being like, all right, well, Sam Darnold was bad his entire career. Now he's been really good this year. Whereas with Quinn, it's a little bit more, it's just less tangible, where it's like, all right, he's changed the culture of this team. And the defensive, like, this defense was supposed to be really bad. Now it's 10th. Like, it's not as loud as like, Sam Darnold. So that's why I think KOC will probably win.
That's true. And because he's a defensive-minded coach, he doesn't get, quote, as much credit for the emergence of Jayden.
Right.
Like, Cliff Kingsbury is going to get the credit for Jayden Daniels, and Jayden Daniels is going to get the credit for Jayden Daniels. I mean, like, the kid's just special. But still, I would argue that in terms of overall coaching, Dan Quinn is my Coach of the Year candidate. That's not just me as a homer talking. Like, he's done an unbelievable job for a guy that a lot of people at the time questioned. Dan Quinn's your second choice. You really wanted Ben Johnson, blah, blah, blah. And it's come out this week that Adam Peters, when he was interviewing with Josh Harris in the ownership group to become the general manager, and they basically said to him, like, hey, all right, who would you want as head coach if you got the job as general manager? And he said Dan Quinn.
The thing I loved about last night, too, with Quinn is that he's been a head coach who's been defined by his conservatism at 28-3 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then last night, I'm going for it every single time. And I think every time, like analytically, it was the right decision. And the fact that they convert that last touchdown to McLaurin, he was vindicated with it. And they don't win the game, I don't think, without that aggressive decision making.
Yeah, people were killing him. I mean, I put this, like, the first fourth down that they went for and didn't get, I was like, I didn't mind them going for it. They played that way all year, by the way. They've gone for it on fourth down a lot. They've been aggressive all year long. But I was like, I didn't love the play call, that specific play call on that first one. But shout out to my friend Josh Norris, who put this out on social media as well. But he's absolutely right, which is like they went for it on fourth down 4 times. They missed twice. They scored 2 touchdowns. Yeah. And if they'd said 14 points over 12 points, if they kicked 4 field goals.
Right.
That's the thing.
People aren't quantifying it the right way.
Right, exactly right. Like, Dan Quinn made the right calculus, and obviously it worked out, and we're on to freaking Detroit.
Indeed.
Let's go. I guess we could talk about the stats a little bit. I don't know that it matters. McLaurin has a 31% target share in this game. They spread it around. We thought Zacchaeus might have a big game, but turns out it's Dyami Brown who goes 5 for 89 and a touchdown. And the interesting thing for me about Dyami Brown was this is somebody that for the majority of his career, Connor, has been just basically a deep threat.
Right.
And he was running intermediate routes. He was doing a lot of different things last night.
And that goes back to the attention Jayden Daniels garners from the front 7, specifically the linebackers, and the space it creates for somebody with speed like Dyami Brown. Wherever you find yourself in one-on-one situations where there's more holes in the zone, it's going to open up opportunities because McLaurin deserves a lot of the attention. So this offense just needed somebody besides Terry to step up, and it was Dyami Brown, like you said, Matthew, not Zacchaeus, although Zacchaeus had a lot of moments down the stretch of the year.
We'll talk about this later but is Todd Bowles back with the Buccaneers, and should he be?
Well, imagine losing Liam Cohen and keeping Todd Bowles.
Yeah, I don't know. Todd Bowles is a good defensive coach. I think that's been largely borne out over. I'm not sure he's the head coach.
I think he's okay.
Yeah,
I mean, this secondary was one of the worst in football this year, and I understand they lost talent.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little overstated at this point right now.
Got completely torched by Kirk Cousins twice in a way that was able to those were the games that allowed Kirk Cousins to keep his job as late as he did.
I mean, I thought overall the Bucs defense played really well last night.
Just Daniels goes down.
Jamel Dean goes down. They missed Winfield for a while during the season here. But I mean, what I've seen on Twitter, which is absolutely right. Like, if you're the Buccaneers ownership, and I don't know if they would do this, but I would be like, I would fire Todd Bowles and elevate Liam Cohen, because what's going to happen is because Washington went through this exact same thing.
Right.
Jay Gruden was the head coach, and he'd been good, not great with the team, and McVay was the offense coordinator, and he was starting to get looks. And they ended up firing Gruden a year later, basically, and what they should have done is fired Gruden and elevated McVay. Now, McVay and Gruden are very close, so I don't know if McVay would have done that.
That's always
It's a little bit different because they're both offensive guys versus Bowles, Liam Cohen, but otherwise you're going to lose Liam Cohen.
Yeah, it's a small aspect of coaching too, but no one mismanages the end of game situations like Todd Bowles does.
That's the issue.
It's horrific.
Both in the first half, either was shocking. Like we're all sitting there, and I'm like, why aren't you calling a timeout? Like I'm like, thank God, but like,
it was
it's just not a lot of aggression.
I when I was going to do my best bet, I was sort of typing out what I wanted to say. And I ended up I had to cut some stuff for time. But one of the things I was going to say was, like, give me Dan Quinn over Todd Bowles, give me Terry McLaurin over their secondary, and give me Jayden Daniels over everyone. And it got cut down to give me Jayden Daniels over everyone. But, like, I mean, I felt like in a close game, most coaches over Bowles.
We'll have more coaching conversation in just a bit on the entire coaching carousel, which will, of course, include Liam Cohen. Let's move over to another NFC game here, guys. Packers at the Eagles, which did not go well for Green Bay at all in this one. A tough day for Jordan Love. We'll get to that in a moment. But Jalen Hurts didn't have to do much. 13 of 21, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 36 rushing yards. We got to hear from Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown on the odd book saga on the sideline after the game.
That's a book that I bring every single game. And, my teammates call it a recipe. That's the first time I heard that y'all got me on camera. But it's not the first game. It got a lot of points in there. It's a lot of mental game, a lot of mental parts about it. And, but for me, this game is mental. I physically believe I can do anything and everything, but I got to make sure I'm mental good. So it's something like how I refresh every drive. You know, regardless of if I score a touchdown or I drop a pass, I always go back to that book every time.
Have you seen AJ read on the sideline during the games, and what goes through your mind when you see that? What do you think
I've never seen him read. I've seen the book in his hands. Everybody has a different thing and finds their flow in different ways.
This is true. I find my flow in different ways as well. I don't know. I mean, what do you, I almost, if I had had more time, I was going to bring a book and just be when we came out of that, you know.
Too far,
Yeah.
post Commanders.
Yeah.
The Eagles have the strangest vibe ever for a team that is now 15-3. Like, it just feels like it's just going to collapse at some point. Like, it's all just weird. AJ Brown has not been reading that book on the sideline every single. Like, it just has. Someone would have seen that at some point.
There's cameras everywhere.
There's just no
in the world
chance.
now.
He's doing it after they're not passing him the ball. It's just a mess. But they're really, really good. They've got a ton of talent.
There's so much talent.
What's insane is like they should have lost yesterday. If Green Bay plays a semi-competent game, they win that game.
Their special teams were a horror show.
Their special teams were horrific. Jordan Love did not play well. Now, credit the Eagles' defense. Part of the reasons why Jordan Love didn't play well is the Eagles' defense is just awesome. Yeah. But still, like, you know what I mean? Like, first off, I thought the Packers got jobbed on the opening kickoff. I thought
it looked like he got it back.
Looked like he got it back. Look, first off, it was helmet to helmet, and then it looked like he got it back. Yeah. And somehow the Eagles wind up with the ball. Like, the officiating did not have a great day yesterday, or during the playoffs they have not had a great day. Like, you know, there were bad calls in every game on both sides. Like, you know, drove me crazy with the Ertz got held in the end zone. Like, even Terry McCauley was like, yeah, that should have been a penalty. Like, you know. When the former refs are saying, like, yeah, you know, my buddy screwed that one up.
They got to get that one.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, Hurts wasn't impressive. Like, even like Barkley's fine, but he wasn't dominant. You sort of expect Saquon Barkley to be dominant here. Josh Jacobs was amazing. Like, in a game in which Jordan Love couldn't pass and they kept losing pass catchers, Josh Jacobs was still able to run the ball, which is really impressive. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next round. I sort of feel like the Eagles got away with one here.
I think they know, too, that they didn't play their best game. I mean, but that's the thing when you're that talented and you could play a lot of variety of ways, whether you're run heavy and defense heavy, special teams, you know, errors on the Packers side. But, yeah, they need to play better to come out of the NFC on top.
So, to me, this game, it's largely, like, Saquon was good. Saquon did his thing. Wasn't as legendary as he's been in some games.
It's a volume game for him.
Yeah. Eagles' defense was amazing. Jordan Love struggled. Jordan Love was losing receivers and losing offensive linemen, so it's hard to assess him on that side of the ball. But to me, the most interesting thing about this is, like, just what is wrong with the Eagles' passing game? Because the Packers didn't get quick pressure once. All day yesterday. Jalen Hurts had 7 seconds to throw on that touchdown pass. Like, what do you think, Connor? It's scheme? Do you think it's Jalen Hurts? Or
I think Jayden Daniels is the offensive line of the Eagles too.
It's unbelievable.
I put a lot of it on Hurts. I don't think he's been an impressive thrower this year, and that's not just physically throwing the ball. That's seeing things. There's times where people are open, and he's like, I'd rather just hold on to it and kind of wait for somebody to run open. I think he's holding the pass game back, and this isn't like a one-game sample. There's a lot of things like this year.
It's year 5 for Jalen Hurts, and he still acts like he's never seen a blitz. Like, every single time the blitz, he backs away, and they seem like they just don't have an answer for it.
Yeah, and they don't throw to Saquon, which is really frustrating because I think that would alleviate some of those issues as well.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. They don't do as he had a couple, but they don't do as many designed runs as they did earlier in his career as well.
They just don't work the middle of the field. Like, it just doesn't seem like a particularly sophisticated, well-oiled passing game.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, like, I know he got the right. I mean, think about his 2 touchdown passes, right? His 2 touchdown passes were one, the one with, like, the one to Jahan Dotson, the ghost of Jahan Dotson.
It was amazing.
It was a Commander's day. Whether you're a former Commander, current Commander, everything was coming up Commanders yesterday.
I was like 83, and they're like Jahan Dotson, and I'm like, oh my God.
I'm like, how's he on the field? So Jahan Dotson catches the ball. Again, he has 7 seconds to throw the ball. Yeah. Eventually, you know, you're going to find somebody open. And then the other one was to Goddard, where Goddard did all the work. Like,
the throw was like behind Goddard. Yeah. If we're going to give Josh Allen the touchdown for the Amari Cooper lateral, then we should just give Dallas Goedert all the touchdown, all the stats.
I mean, because Goddard just makes an unbelievable play on that one. But yeah, it makes you, if the idea is you go as far as your quarterback will take you in the playoffs, like, I would be nervous if I was a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
The thing is, though, is like they're going to be so much more talented than the Rams or the Vikings.
Always.
And then they're probably going to place Detroit in the NFC if the Commanders don't pull the upset, and Detroit just has nothing on the back end, so they might just get to the Super Bowl and we'll find out.
Counting health, they have more talent than Detroit right now. They do.
For sure.
Like Detroit's missing key piece after key piece.
after.
It's weird. It's weird to see a team in the playoffs that we could truly sit here and go, yeah, the Eagles can come out of the NFC, and they have problems at quarterback, head coach, and star wide receiver. Like it feels that way at least.
It's sort of crazy. But if you think let me put it this way. Let's pretend you're a fan of a team in the NFC East that isn't the Eagles. And so you don't want the Eagles to go to the Super Bowl, right? Which I don't. That's my rooting interest is if the Commanders can't make it, I would love to see the Lions. The Lions are just a fun story, right? But so if you're rooting for that, if you're anti-Eagles, right? And I know you love your Giants, of course.
Giants.
Where are you? I think I'm rooting for the Vikings over the Rams because I think the Vikings will match up better with the Eagles than the Rams. I think that, especially because I think they can get to we talk about Hurts under pressure. Like the Vikings will be able to generate pressure on Hurts. And
highest blitz rate in the league.
Exactly. And so I do think they might be more of a problem for the Eagles than the Rams.
Yep.
The only thing I'll say is McVay and Stafford in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
It feels like they level the playing field all the time. And I know it's crazy to say when O'Connell's the other option with the Vikings, but it's an interesting conversation.
It certainly is. I mean, and if ever there was a team that could, offensively, right? I mean, Nakua they need Kupp to get going. But anyway, tonight will be a great game.
Yeah, we'll have best bets at the end of today's show for Vikings Rams. All right, move over to the AFC here. The Broncos.
Before we get there, real quickly, just on Jordan Love though, I think his QBR was like under 20 in this game.
He wasn't good.
He was. I mean, 3 interceptions. He takes a bunch of sacks as well. Like he was not good.
Well, in the throws, you just were wondering at times what he was thinking on some of the interceptions, whether it was miscommunications with different receivers.
Another guy that doesn't run either. That could has that mobility, and yet
especially the one long run where he dropped his shoulder and he just came up short. But you're like, why don't you do that more often?
Him and Stroud, I don't understand. Like Stroud won the game with his legs in a way. It's like, why don't you just run more?
You would think they would have the mindset.
You just do it against Georgia and in the playoffs. Like, why can't you do that more?
Like the mindset Baker has.
Yeah.
Baker should not be running as much as he does, but then you look at it and you're like, he acts like a fullback, and it's awesome.
That run was unbelievable last night. And I was like, when I saw it, I was just like, oh, damn, now they're going to get all fired up because that was awesome. I was like, that was awesome. Damn it.
He's something else.
Up now.
I know. I love Baker. I wish, I'm very happy the Commanders won, but I wish it didn't come against because I love Baker. He friend of the podcast, Baker Mayfield.
Friend of mine.
I have a half a picture with him.
Yes, it's a good one. Maybe we'll get a chance at redemption at this year's Super Bowl.
Yeah, maybe.
Now that he's available.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, Baker.
Sorry, Baker.
All right, Broncos at the Bills. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I thought this game would be a lot closer than it was.
Well, it looked like it was going to be after the first drive.
Yeah.
Troy Franklin. Let's go.
Troy Franklin, Oregon teammate of Bo Nix, but Josh Allen, wildly efficient days, 20 and 26. He barely missed. 272 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. He also added 46 rushing yards. Josh Allen moving on to talking about the Ravens, which is going to be an unbelievable matchup next weekend.
Obviously, everything gets heightened, and maybe you watch another couple games of what the defense is doing. But we're not trying to do anything drastically different. We're just trying to go out there and play our best football. We had a really good week of practice. We had a great week of game planning. I thought our offensive staff, again, put in some great plays, as you saw today. But ultimately, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and Joes, and guys are ready to go. We got our rest, getting able to kind of not play everybody that last game. Guys were refreshed, and again, we're going to need to get our rest this week. And we got a really, really good Baltimore Ravens team coming here. They put the thumping on us earlier in the year, and we know that, and we understand that. So, again, it's the most important game because it's the next one.
It's not the X's and O's, guys. It's the Jimmy and Joes.
That's right. That's how this show functions.
That's how this show functions. Yeah, exactly right. We rarely pay attention to the X's and O's, but it's the Jimmy and Joes.
We just go out there and play.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Sorry, production team.
I'm sure there's a great deal to read into this game from the Bills side. It was just the kind of Billsy game. Allen was awesome. Shakir was the leading receiver. Cook was really good on the ground.
But it was against a good defense. That's what impressed me so much. They made Denver look extremely pedestrian.
The thing is, though, is that with the Broncos defense, which was awesome all season, I think they're going to have the guy who wins Defensive Player of the Year, though he got absolutely burned in this game, Pat Surtain. But the Broncos got ruined by the Ravens. It was like 41-10. The Broncos didn't make the Bengals punt until overtime, so there might be an aspect where
they beat up on a lot of
up.
bad teams.
That's fair.
If Jonathan Taylor doesn't throw it out of the end zone, like they're down 20-6 and they lose at home to the Colts and they're not in the playoffs, so I do think they overachieved a little bit. And look, it's hard against Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, give them credit. Like, James Cook looked awesome in this game. More touches and more rushing yards than he had in any game during the regular season. 5th straight game now with a rushing touchdown for James Cook. Over 100 yards, easy. But I thought, because I think one of the big concerns for the Bills is their defense. I think they were giving up points to the Rams. Like they've been in these shootout games where you're like, why are you in a shootout game? Like, and so I think here, and then that first series, Bo Nix going deep to Troy Franklin, like, oh boy, right? And I thought Brady called an amazing game for the Bills because basically what they did is they played defense with their offense. Yeah. Their time possession was something like 43-18.
Right.
It was like they kept the ball and they just didn't let Denver score. Josh Allen completed a pass to 8 different Bills players yesterday. Cook runs really, really well. And then they just do stuff like Devin McCourty said this last night on the Football Night in America podcast, where he's just like, if I was a defensive back facing Josh Allen, I would get so mad. He's because you're playing great defense, and then all of a sudden he's running around back there, and he seemingly throws it away, and then Ty Johnson on one knee scoots in the back of the end zone, and you're like, how is that?
Right.
How did that just happen?
Yeah.
I mean, that
was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
He really should have run for the first down before he threw it, but even so, it was an amazing play.
But just, proud fantasy life investor Josh Allen, just absolutely magical. Unbelievable game, and can't wait to see them play the Ravens next week. That'll be fascinating.
Yeah. I've got a big bet on the Bills to win the Super Bowl from 20-1 preseason. I don't feel good about this Baltimore matchup. I feel like we're running into a buzzsaw.
This is the big one. This is the big one.
I feel like, and we'll get to the Ravens in a second, but they are rolling at the moment.
Yeah, to me that game, I guess we can get there, right? But I thought the Bills just played good, efficient, Bills football. The fact that they're home definitely helps.
Yeah.
I mean,
getting an extra gear though to beat Baltimore.
Oh yeah, because just think about this. And again, this is also something that Devin said on the show last night. But when it's cold, it might be snowing next week. It might be bad weather, cold, rainy. When it's cold and rainy, the last thing you want to do is try to tackle Derrick Henry.
I just have memories of Damar Hamlin chasing behind Derrick Henry in that Week 4 matchup where they beat them 35-10. I'm not sure it's a great matchup for Buffalo, but we'll see.
On the Denver side, the hot start for Bo Nix, and there was some drops throughout the game, but 13-22, 144 yards, the 1 touchdown that was on that first drive. He runs for 43 yards, but this is an offense that they can't match up with the Buffaloes of the world and these monster AFC teams right now, Matthew. Good year for Bo Nix.
Great year for Bo Nix. In a year in which rookie quarterbacks played at a higher level than anyone else. And Jayden Daniels obviously is amazing. And, Penix over the last couple of games is great. Bo Nix was right there with all those rookie quarterbacks. Led his team to the playoffs. And it's interesting. So last night, again, on the Football Night in America pod, we were asked sort of questions like, what do these teams need for next year? We were asked about some of the teams that got eliminated. What do they need for next year? And Coach Garrett and I said the exact same thing about what the Broncos need. They just need time and experience. This is a young team. They don't really have an elite wide receiver outside of Cortland Sutton. If they could get another pass catcher, whether it's a good pass catching tight end,
that's what
another
I think
guy like Mims. Marvin Mims had some nice moments here, but it feels like he's more of a 3 than a 2. A really good 3, but I feel like they need another solid guy.
It's strange because they lost the game 31-7, but I came out of it feeling better about Bo Nix. I thought he played well. I thought he was fine. He had an 85 PFF grade, 68 QBR. He just didn't have the ball.
Exactly. They had the ball less than 20 minutes. He just, they had very limited possessions.
And they had quite a few series that Peyton just went run, pass and put Bo Nix in 3rd and long, where you're like, it's almost like you're trying to protect a young quarterback, and instead you hurt him because you're putting him in 3rd.
Didn't enjoy the Bobby Slowick costume from Sean Payton.
Right.
Although I guess the counter argument might be listen, our defense just got off an 18-drive play. I'm trying to give them a little bit of a play because if we throw 3 passes and we're 3 and out, I'm trying to at least give my guys a little bit of a breather. So that might have been it as well. Shout out to our friend Lawrence Jackson, by the way. His bet last Friday was Javonte Williams, 25 rushing yards at plus money. That was his best bet, and that obviously cashed. So plus money Jackson coming through. Nice job there. Yeah, well done.
Our next game, guys, the Chargers at the Texans. Your Texans.
My Texans.
Mr. Crasher.
1 down, 3 to go.
1 down.
Super Bowl champions.
100-1.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Jeez, the defense looked good. That actually, to me, jokes aside about my 100-1 Texans bet that's probably going to die this weekend. But to me, kind of the most interesting thing out of this weekend is just like, is this Texans defense, is this going to be the best defense in football? Because they just wrecked that game.
They did, and I think there's a lot of, they have the building blocks to be that. They have 2 elite edge rushers in Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. They have an elite number 1 corner in Stingley. Now they just need to fill out the pieces. They probably need a big defensive tackle.
Lassiter's a nice piece.
Lassiter is a nice piece, and he had a solid rookie season. They probably need a big defensive tackle in between those guys, 1 more linebacker. They're close. I thought there was a lot of real boneheaded decisions by Herbert, though, that are you could evaluate in a vacuum away from how good a defense
I'm offended that my Texans are 8.5-point dogs in Kansas City. That's offensive. 8.5. They were 3.5-point dogs in Kansas City like 3 weeks ago, and they almost won the game. I don't understand that line at all.
I mean, I was just saying, just given that the Chiefs haven't played meaningful football, their starters, since Christmas, right? So it's a very long break. And if there's one weakness of the Kansas City Chiefs, it's that offensive line. If they can get home on Mahomes, they got a shot in this thing.
Just saying, Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter looking a little O.C. Umenyiora, Justin Tuckish from that Giants run.
Awesome.
They can wreck the game with their D-line, and then Stroud and Nico. Stroud was shaky to start, but then he really found a rhythm. And Nico Collins is a top 4 wide receiver in football.
There's no question. And if they can get Mixon going the way they did in the second half against the Chargers, I think that the Chiefs likely win this game. But if the Texans end up upsetting them, it wouldn't be a shock given how they match up with Kansas City.
Yeah, they got to keep Mahomes. They give him a chance in this one. And Joe Thuney kicking out to tackle has been better for the Chiefs. So we'll see how that kind of plays out ultimately. But the Texans, their defense is a lot to handle right now. When you can rush and cover, you can hang with anybody traditionally.
Yeah. Justin Herbert had 3 interceptions in the regular season. He had 4 against, And I mean, listen, Lad McConkey was McConkulous. He was absolutely ridiculous. But
that's awesome.
They have no one else. That was an embarrassing day at the office for the Chargers.
Bad QJ day at the Roars time.
Yeah.
Brutal. We're all doing a playoff pool, and I got stuck with Quentin Johnston, and
it kind of summed up the game and where the Chargers are at in terms of what they need to fix. That, on one of the biggest plays of the game, 4th and 2, they throw to Quentin Johnston one-on-one man coverage against Derek Stingley. It's like, oh, that didn't work out. I didn't think it would.
Right, and you got to get to the sticks.
Yeah.
That was another issue.
Strange, that was back when the famous Patriots 4th and 2 against the Colts. Where
and I didn't understand how much usage Gus Edwards got, on short and gotta have it. And Dobbins has been great all year, and Edwards has been toast all year, and all of a sudden, and he hasn't been active. I mean, because he's been banged up. I thought Herbert played very poorly, but I also thought it was a poorly coached game.
Disley's had some brutal drops. Soul-crushing, team-deflating drops.
Yeah, Disley was bad too. Disley and Herbert both just chose to have the worst day of the office on the biggest stage. But McConkey's amazing. They need somebody else with him.
Yeah.
I mean, 197 receiving yards is against this secondary.
Yeah. He was great.
Nobody can cover him. It's unbelievable. We'll be excited to talk about him going into next year.
And people I always, I tweeted out McConkulous, and people were like, oh, Gladiator is so much better. It's not. It's not Gladiator. McConkey's basically Connor size. He's not a Gladiator.
I actually have a picture with him at the Combine. Somebody tweeted at me that we look like brothers, which we are the same exact size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Connor, but Connor's not,
I just
NFL
don't get open against Derek Stingley.
Drawing comparisons to Russell Crowe and Gladiator for our own Connor Rogers. No, he's Connor Conculus.
We'll see if that one sticks. All right, our last game. The team that we've been hyping up and hinting at for a while in the Baltimore Ravens, they dismantle the Steelers, where a lot of talk about Mike Tomlin right now. We'll get to that in a moment, but it's all about Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in this one. I mean, just a ludicrous over 250 rushing yards between these two. We got to hear from Lamar after the game on what it's like just having the king in the backfield.
What's it like when you're on the field seeing Derrick Henry run like that?
It looked like a movie clip. When I'm going to give Cars. You watch the movie Cars? You're a little bit too old to watch Cars, but anyway, for kids, I was a kid when I watched Kids. I was a kid when I watched Cars, that's all I'm saying. But, when when Lightning McQueen just flying, flashing past, and then it's like, that's how Derrick looked when he was running past, and all those guys just, it looked like a movie, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I'd rather be watching it than being on the opposite side of the ball. I know that.
I love Lamar
For sure.
Jackson. Yeah. He's just the best. And then Derrick Henry with the Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Yep. It really does feel. It was a good analogy, by the way.
It is.
I mean, when Derrick Henry gets to the second level, it's like all the alarms just start going off.
It's just stupid. It's just
crazy.
I don't know how anyone's beating the Ravens. I feel like they're a truck.
I mean,
truck.
That's what it's going to be, especially when it gets cold and just they're running those RPO. I mean, give credit to Todd Monken, who's just like I feel like has just called a perfect year in terms of that offense. Like, and he's doing this, and you're a defensive back, and you're like, wait, do I follow Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry?
Patrick Queen was put in an absolute blender.
Oh,
this game. He had no idea. He had no idea.
Yeah, it just, I mean,
not a fun place to be.
No, it was weird though. I mean, the Steelers. This is a division rival, a team you hate. Like, there's no love lost between these two teams, and it just didn't feel like they showed up with any sort of passion. Like,
I think that's what the Ravens do to you, though.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of watching the Steelers. It's like 4 island games in a row, and they were terrible in all of them. I know the Bengals one was close, but like they didn't cover themselves in glory in that game. So yeah, disappointing end. But like they just don't have the talent on offense. Like they don't have the quarterback. They don't have enough weapons. It's Pickens. Like it's Russell Wilson and George Pickens going up against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and co. Like they just didn't have a chance.
No, they certainly didn't. The defense has played better recently as well. Baltimore has. Uninspiring game. George Pickens, 5 for 87 though. That was my best bet on Friday. Was Pickens over on the receiving yard, so that cashes. We were happy to see that. But they're not a lot there to hang your hat on if you're a Steelers fan. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
And the Ravens just grind you down. Ravens had 3 drives of over 80 yards in the first half. Like just
Well, it was 29 first downs to 11, and a lot of those Steelers first downs came with the game already out of hand.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. These are like empty calorie stats.
Yeah.
The Pickens numbers I don't think were, but Russ finishing 20 and 29 for 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you're like, oh, Steelers hung around, and it's like, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's going to be a lot of conversation around Pittsburgh this offseason and the makeover that they need, and if they'll accept that. We're going to take our first break. Before we do, of course, here's the bracket, the updated playoff bracket. As we look at
so,
2 games away.
Texans at Ravens for the AFC Championship. There you go.
It's coming. I'm so excied for this Texans-Commanders Super Bowl. It's going to be sick.
There's still a chance, Jay. You're
You
still
never
alive.
know.
Alive
you
and
never
well.
know. Any given Sunday, brother. Any given Sunday.
We're taking our first break. When we're back, Who's Eating Good is coming up next. We're talking about the coaching carousel around the NFL offseason right after this.
I want to thank the fans that made coming and playing in this stadium unbelievably special, but I also want you not to take this organization for granted. I've been a lot of places. This is a special place with great leadership, great fans, great direction, great coaching. Enjoy it. It's not like this everywhere. Thank you very much.
Let's jump into the Rotoworld Player News. For all your player news, of course, go to NBCSports.com, where you can find the latest around all the coaching interviews, hirings. That was Mike Vrabel at the top. And I remember when that happened, some people in Tennessee were not too thrilled by that quote. Whether it was a passive-aggressive shot or not, it's funny how you fast forward, a little bit later.
By the way, he wasn't wrong.
No.
He wasn't wrong.
No, not at all.
Tennessee never should have fired him. Tennessee
Well, I
should
mean,
not
how
have-
are you going to get better than him? That was the question when they fired him.
Of course. Like, I mean, he won Coach of the Year in 2021. He had a winning record in his 6 seasons as the Titans head. He had 3 playoff appearances in 6 seasons as well with Ryan Tannehill, who at his best, at Ryan Tannehill's best, was like a B- quarterback.
With Arthur Smith.
With Arthur Smith, like he had Derrick Henry. I mean, but like they never had a great offensive line. Like
They got a 1 seed with Ryan Tannehill in a conference with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow.
Vrabel gets the most out of his teams. It's kind of the thought process.
Vrabel is very much from the Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn, kind of old school football guy type coach. But the Patriots will play their asses off for him.
Yeah. The knock on Vrabel has always been that kind of approach seems to have led itself to some very conservative, kind of old school offenses. So I think that'll be the question: is what does he do with the offense, and where do they go in that direction? It's going to be Josh McDaniels, or we'll see.
Right. If they bring back Josh McDaniels, which apparently is very much in play, then you feel good about it. I think this is a great move for Vrabel in terms of, listen, you go to a team with a very high draft pick, and you got a quarterback.
And cap space.
And a quarterback, you got cap space, and you got a fan base that is going to give you a long leash, which they did not give to Gerard Mayo.
No,
rightfully or wrongfully, they didn't give it to it. And it's weird because I really thought Pep Hamilton had a chance at this job, but Vrabes is the one who comes away with it.
He's going to give a lot of money to Zach Bourne.
Yeah.
Well spent.
All right, who's eating good? If we want to take a look at some more of the notable coaching vacancies left now that the Patriots is filled. Bears, Jaguars, Jets, Raiders, and Saints all looking for their next leader here. And we start with the Bears, who have interviewed so far Anthony Weaver, of course, from the Dolphins, Drew Petzing from the Cardinals, Mike Kafka, legend of your Giants there, Jay. Pete Carroll, of course, looking to get back in the mix here. Ben Johnson from the Lions and Aaron Glenn from the Lions.
This is such a weird list.
I was going to say, talk about some real dart throws and then guys with a guy with experience like Carroll.
Yeah, Carroll makes sense. Glenn makes sense.
Ben Johnson makes a lot of sense.
Ben Johnson makes a lot of sense. I guess you could argue Kafka, a former NFL quarterback who's been an OC, or Petzing, where you're just like, can you get Caleb right? Can you, build this team around Caleb? But Ron Rivera, you know what I mean? That's a weird one. Anthony Weaver's a weird one. I don't know.
Now I'll say this: still scheduled for the Bears, Todd Monken. I think that would be exciting for Caleb Williams. Sure. Cliff Kingsbury, good with young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Obviously knows Caleb Williams personally.
I don't know if Cliff takes that interview, by the way.
Interesting.
Cliff doesn't have to jump to any job.
It's kind of like the Canales Bryce Young thing. It's not the same to the same extent because Caleb Williams still feel better about him than we did about Bryce Young coming into the season. But the only thing that matters is getting the most out of Caleb Williams. That's the only thing that matters. Yeah. So I just think it really should just be an offensive-minded head coach, and Ben Johnson's the dream.
Well, either that or it needs to be a defensive-minded coach that will bring in a great offense. You know what I mean? If there was a coordinator out there like Cliff that you felt good about, that you feel like you could get there. But we'll see. Brian Flores would be interesting as well. I don't get the Arthur Smith thing, but okay. Anyway, Bears fans, we'll see. I wonder how people feel about the First off, I wonder if people feel about Bears' job. Maybe you feel good because you've got Caleb there, but also the front office is a bit of a mess.
Infrastructure is bizarre.
Right, and if you're somebody like, especially like Cliff Kingsbury, right? I mean, or even Arthur Smith, you're only going to get a second chance at a head coaching job. Once you've had two shots, you're sort of done. And so, I think Kingsbury's going to be very, very, patient and pick his right spots. Florio made this point last night, which is, he's still being paid by the Cardinals. He's being paid by the Cardinals through 2026 as a head coach. He's in a good spot with Washington, so we'll see there. Flores would be interesting as well. Let's talk about the Jaguars. Is the Jaguars a good job? You've got Trevor Lawrence. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't know how you feel about the ownership there.
I'll tell you why it's.
And you've got to deal with Trent Baalke,
that's
who's
number one problem.
Because I love the Khans. Full disclosure, Tony Khan, who's part of the ownership group of the Jaguars, is an investor in Fantasy Life. So full disclosure on that one. But Baalke seems to not have the best reputation.
It's as bad as it gets in the NFL in terms of still having a GM job, and I know that's harsh, but you do make a really good point. That ownership group by NFL people, scouts, execs, coaches, they love them. Yeah. They're patient. They pay well. They're good to work with. They check all the boxes of good ownership. But you have to get Baalke out of there if you want the best, I think, in my opinion. And then, the last one with the Jets, this is a little bit different because there is no GM there. Yep. So the good news is it's a clean slate across the board.
Who do you want?
Yeah.
That I think is realistic.
You want Darren
Ben
Rizzi?
Johnson's not interviewing. Yeah, Darren Rizzi. Ron Rivera interviewed. Bring Rex Ryan back. I like the combo of Brian Flores with Josh McCown as his OC.
Interesting.
In terms of what they can get. I'm not sitting here and they're not getting Ben Johnson, they're not getting Cliff Kingsbury, they're not getting Liam Cohen. Maybe they surprise you, but I don't think they will.
Doesn't seem like they want to go out and recruit, which I think you sort of have to with some. Ben Johnson's going to have his pick of jobs.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
They didn't even request him because they knew he wasn't taking the interview. I like Aaron Glenn, but who's the OC? Like, the question is always with the Jets, who is the OC?
And who's the quarterback?
And who's the quarterback? That's the thing. Like, you sit here and look at some of these jobs that at least with the Jaguars and the Bears, you have a quarterback, or at least you
That's
think
their advantages.
You think they do. You know, the Raiders, who knows? The Saints, it depends on sort of how you feel about Derek Carr, I guess. But, you know, or Spencer Rattler.
Right.
It'll be fascinating to see how this all pans out. I can't believe Ron Rivera is getting multiple interviews for jobs.
He's on a world tour.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I hope he gets a job.
It's because
I would love for him to get a job.
It's because Emmanuel Forbes has played better with the Rams. We're taking a break.
Nowhere
When
to go
we're
but
back,
up.
we got best bets for the Rams. Vikings right after this. DraftKings Sportsbook is the #1 place to bet touchdowns, and new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code Barry when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crowd is yours. The crowd is yours. It's time for last call. Here's the most bet props for Vikings-Rams, the final wild card game. Jay, what do you like tonight?
Taking your man, Connor, Sam Darnold, to throw an interception at -120 in the first half. Last week, he had 8 overthrows. His career high was 12 across a full game. It was a miracle he wasn't picked last week. I think Jared Verse and Co. will get in his face and he'll throw at least 1 interception tonight.
All right, guys, I'm taking Puka Nacua over 7.5 receptions. Vikings' highest pass blitz rate in the league, 55% since week 11. When Stafford's blitzed, Nakua's target share is 40%. 40%. The next closest is Cooper Kupp. He's under 20%.
Yeah.
When Stafford gets blitzed, he throws the ball to Puka Nacua over 7.5 receptions.
I like it. I'm going Aaron Jones under 14.5 rushes. He's been under this number in 4 of the last 6 games, and a running back has gone over this number against the Rams only once in the last 5 games. They're using Cam Akers more and more. Aaron Jones feels like he might not be fully healthy, and they just want to use him more as a pass catcher. So give me Aaron Jones under 14.5 rushing attempts tonight for the Vikings.
How do you see this one shaking out?
I think the Rams win tonight because Stafford
the
is
Rams
so
too.
good against the blitz, and Darnold. The thing with Darnold, if you get pressure in less than 3 seconds against Sam Darnold, he really struggles. I think Verse, Fisk, Young, Turner, they can get that pressure.
How did the lines move when the game went from LA to Arizona?
So it moved about 1 to 1.5 points. So it is a material difference, but still. So in terms of the Vikings being more favored, but I think the Rams get it done.
Yeah, fascinating game. It's been an interesting wild card weekend, but the most important thing is the Commanders won. We are back here tomorrow to break down that game and give you some more bets as well. For Jay and Connor, I'm Matthew. We will see you tomorrow. Hail the Commanders! Hail victory! Peace out! Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Rotoworld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.